Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing The Bike Riders. This was directed by Jeff Nichols. I realized walking into this one that it had been a long time since I have reviewed a Nichols film or seen a Nichols film, and you know, that's a shame because I consider him to be such a reliable director, and he's somebody who really loves a great classical cinematic style. Similarly to somebody like a James Gray, as an example, who is somebody that I also adore, and my standards for him are so high. It's like every time he makes a film, you know, some are going to be better than others, but I always expect, you know, high quality. And yeah, with Nichols, it's like if you say, oh, there's a new Jeff Nichols film coming out, it's like, ooh, you know, tell me more. So yes, naturally, I was really excited about Bike Riders because, you know, from the outside at least, it seemed ambitious, but always still rooted in that classical cinematic style that I love, but you know, taking on this grand mythos that many people romanticize. It just looked like a proper movie. You know, it looked like something that had a real story with real characters to it. And, you know, Nichols always gets great performances in his films, and I feel like his Rolodex of just reputable character actors that he can draw from now is quite extensive. And the image of Austin Butler just as an idea with him like on the motorcycle riding into the sunset, you know, it's just such an indelible image. And, you know, you're going to think about James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, or, you know, like Steve McQueen. The obvious direct reference in this film that they are using is Marlon Brando in The Wild One, and yeah, just like that masculine idea of like the outliers all teaming up but, you know, answering to no one. And this could be a stand-in for all kinds of things that you have seen in, you know, different films, like the iconic mafia outfit, the romanticism of that in like the gangster world, or just, you know, like the lone image of like the cowboy from a Western. This is a film about how we romanticize masculine ideals, but how we kind of chase them through the idea of nostalgia, and how it's all about trying to keep some sort of control and live life on one's own terms. But of course, by having that sense of freedom, you're also very lost in the same breath. But of course, throughout all of this, the culture is changing, and the way that new people adapt this romanticism is going to be different. And so, yeah, time happens. But there's also that moral confliction so far as it's like, how far are you willing to take something before it starts to impact other aspects of your life? It starts to affect your loved ones and your friends. And the whole thing, yes, it's going to eventually unravel because times are not always going to be as good as they once were. But yes, it is like the mafia in the sense that they all have codes that they have to abide by, and these standards have to be held when you are trying to maintain an organization like this one that is growing. There's a lot of upkeep, and it's not always so romantic. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, and I will say, just right off the bat, I did like this movie a lot. This is my kind of movie, the type of movie I have been craving in a sea of abstract surrealism that I think overpopulates the cinema these days. But at the same time, I felt, you know, a little bit disappointed by this film just because, again, I hold Nichols to such a high standard. I think he is such a compelling storyteller, and there are so many strong elements here. It's like you have strong performers, and you have hints of brilliance going on all the time here. But I think ultimately what frustrates me is that the writing is so good, but it's always keeping me at a distance. These characters are so intriguing, and yet my understanding of them so far as, you know, their interest in this sensationalism and how they use it, you know, remains more symbolic to me than it is tangible. I wanted this film to rise to like Goodfellas levels of symphonic harmony, and I wanted the grit and the authenticity that shapes these archetypes that you might get from something like The Seven Samurai or The Wild Bunch. But here I just think there's a lot being shuffled around on screen, and so it causes some of the meatier elements to feel undercooked. It's also a little bit unfocused as a result, so it keeps the mythology of these people, you know, always in the abstract rather than kind of finding the balance between, yes, the romanticism and the emotions and the pains of reality that are kind of weighing it all down. This is a short film. I think it's around an hour and a half, maybe a little bit longer than that, but I wanted it to be more of like an epic ensemble piece, I think, that had all the light and shade of those grand Americana, you know, pieces of filmmaking that we love. I will tell you that I think the opening scene of the film set the stage so far as the charisma they're trying to evoke here, or lack thereof. You have Austin Butler, and he's sitting at the bar with his drink, and he's got this leather jacket. You have these locals coming over to him, and they're about to start some shit. It's a very saloon Western type of opening that we have, but to me, there was something about it that always felt a little bit too manufactured, as if we are too self-aware of our references, too aware of who Austin Butler is supposed to be embodying, and that feeling just never left me throughout the entire film. We have, you know, again, a compelling performer here in Austin Butler, and I have said this, you know, multiple times in the past, but I think he has all the ingredients to become that that classic movie star that I think he certainly wants to be. But his character remains more of a symbol to me that never fully materializes. He's always kind of floating above all the other characters, and there's never true tenacity. And I think if he had, he would have been the perfect bridge to bring the reality and the fantasy together in a seamless way. I get on one hand that the Butler character is supposed to always remain a symbol. He's always supposed to be distant to us because he's never supposed to fit any mold and never really find an identity for himself. He is that rogue-ish character where it's like he can't be a faithful lover so long as the open road is calling his name, and he can't be a leader of his tribe because he is forever an outsider who does not have those attachments. But we're never really let into the dilemmas of the Butler character that he's constantly wrestling with, and I think you can do that while still keeping the mystique alive for that character. I think you just have to let those elements slowly come in, and that will kind of provide the tangibility. And I think they tried to do that to a degree, but it wasn't fully satisfying me. I was interested in the romantic angle so far as like, what does the wife see in him, and vice versa, so that we understand. It's like the risks are bigger. Sacrifices are going to be made down the line. So for me, yes, Butler is the weak link in the film compared to the other two major performances in the film. And I don't think that it's Austin Butler's fault. I think it's just the fault of the writing for the character. It's like, he's almost compelling, almost, and I'm straining. I'm just like, come on, man, we're so close. But, you know, it's just not enough, at least for me. It's more the wife who has more of that color. She is the one that is providing the voice for him, or we're seeing kind of the way she perceives him. It's all done through her eyes for the most part. And the wife is vivid in this film. She's got this brightness. She's like a dandelion in like a gentleman's smoke room or something. The writing does a wonderful job of playfully enticing us into her world and into her perspective. It's a naive perspective, but we're also naive as well. So we need to take it in, I think, through her eyes. But again, I just feel like we didn't have enough insight as the film went on when it came to her relationship with Austin and all of that, and that's where the emotional crux lies in part. Of course, the other major component of the film is Tom Hardy, and I am a huge fan of Tom Hardy. I have been for a long time. He's just he reminds me of like those great old school performers in the old kind of robust 1950s tradition of acting. He has that charisma and that masculinity with a touch of the oddball in him. But I think that that's what's true about a lot of movie stars, especially from the past. It's like a lot of them had that charisma and that suave quality or that masculinity, but they always had something maybe a little off kilter about them, something eccentric, maybe a weird accent or a weird voice. In that sense, Tom Hardy is the perfect person to, you know, be the leader of this big club. And Hardy is, you know, working really hard, I think, to pull all the color out of this character, who still does remain frustratingly abstract to me. I love his mannerisms. I love his accent in particular, but just, you know, Hardy's always had, you know, a specific type of voice with an interesting timbre that you're not very used to, but the way he kind of plays it up here and makes it very nasally, it's unexpected. It's off color, but I love it. It reminds me of like Nate Diaz. Imagine like the first time you ever saw him and you didn't hear him speak and you saw him fight, and then he grabs a microphone and starts talking, and it's like, what the hell? Who talks like this? It's that same kind of quality. There is a comedic offbeat quality to it, but there's also, you know, shades of tragedy there. There's a withered sense of existence always in him, and he's meant to, I think, embody an old generation dying out. He's jaded by this duty he has to keep this whole thing afloat, to keep this thing alive. And so I found myself, because of that, wanting to attach myself to his character in particular. I wanted to follow him. I connected to him, and also, you know, the Austin Butler, the wife character as well. What's interesting to me is that he has the same in as everybody else so far as like glorifying the motorcycle image. Of course, everybody has an individual idea of what that means to them, but, you know, the fact that he's the one that keeps it going so long. He was the one who was compelled to make that statement and really draw that line in the sand from the beginning and keep it going. And so it's like, what goes into all of that? And from a writing perspective, it's like I understand more, you know, all the things that he wants to give up and why he wants to do so, but less why he intended to build it maybe in the first place. Because this film is so solid, it makes me realize just how difficult it is to find that sweet spot. You know, it's like, you know, creating characters that have to be distant in order to keep that sparkling romanticism intact, but also finding those nuances that, you know, bring it a little bit closer to the ground and closer to the human orbit. Not that the people didn't feel human in this film. I think they do more than your typical movie, absolutely. But, you know, again, they still remain archetypes to a degree. I wanted to gain a lot more meaning out of the piece than there actually was, I think. And it's like, I think I understand what the film is trying to say, and I think I know what it means to me, at least on an initial viewing. And it's, it's like it's a grim outlook. It's like, for future generations, I think it's quite a bleak look at the world. I just wanted more of that longing to be captured in this snapshot in time as it starts to slowly fade right before our eyes. I think that would have provided the perfect pathos that this film really needed a lot more of. It has its moments, certainly. It's like we have brushes with like real reflection and contemplation. We do see that embodied, I think, quite wonderfully in the Michael Shannon character, who has a pretty small part here. I think he has the most, amazing cinematic face. It's worn and rugged, but he has these dark eyes that are both like really powerful and intense, yet soulful and sensitive at the same time. Shannon, and like there's so many seasoned veterans here so far as the performances are concerned. And it's like everything here is almost top-notch. And this is why I'm absolutely recommending this film. I know I am complaining about it a lot, but honestly, I really like the film. It's among one of my favorites of the year so far, at least so far as the American films are concerned anyway. But yeah, just, it's just slightly off-center, enough to, really kind of frustrate me, because I wanted this to be a masterwork, and I think it had all of the potential and the abilities to be. And again, I think maybe my expectations for somebody like Jeff Nichols are just really, really high, and that might be part of the problem. But yes, absolutely. I think see this film and decide for yourself if you think it's, if it needed more depth or if it's fine the way it is. I'll be interested to see what you guys think, but yeah, that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I am an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.